Yippee-ki-yay! We're starting with one page from the front. Actually, it's too heavy. This book is huge. I'm gonna push my seat back, crunch everything. Okay, we're gonna do a page near the front. We're only doing half a page because they're so big. Here we go. Adderley Cannonball, popular name of Julian Edwin Adderley, jazz saxophonist and composer, born in Tampa, Florida, USA. Born into a musical family, he directed the local high school band from 1948 to 1956 and U.S. Army bands 1950 to 1953. Then, in 1956, formed a combo with his brother Nat from 1932 to 2000, which was soon widely acclaimed. His many recordings include the album Kind of Blue, 1958 to 9, with the Miles Davis Sextet and John Coltrane, and his film work included Play Misty for Me, 1971. He died at the height of his career following a stroke. Adder's Tongue, a fern native to grasslands of Europe, Asia, North Africa, and North America. Underground rhizome, producing a fertile spike 5 centimeters long, bearing sporangia, and sheathed by a single oval. The entire frond is 10 to 20 centimeters long. Addinsell Richard, from 1904 to 1977, a composer, born in Oxford, Oxfordshire, in England. A student of law at Oxford, he went on to study music in London, Berlin, and Vienna. He composed much film music, including the popular Warsaw Concerto for the film Dangerous Moonlight in 1941. Addis Ababa, capital of Ethiopia. Altitude 2,400 meters or 77,874 feet. Founded by Menelik II in 1887. Capital way to port of Djibouti. University 1950. Tobacco, foodstuffs, textiles, chemicals, cement, National Museum, National Library, St. George Cathedral, Menelik II's tomb, headquarters of UN Economic Commission for Africa and of Organization of African Unity. Addison Joseph, from 1672 to 719, an essayist and politician, born in Millstone, Wiltshire, South England. A student at Oxford, he was a distinguished classical scholar, beginning his literary career in 1693 with a poetical address to Dryden. In 1699, he obtained a pension to train for the diplomatic service and spent 4 years abroad. While under Secretary of State 1705 to 1708, he produced his opera Rosamond in 1706, and in 1708 was elected to Parliament for Malmesbury. He became a member of the Kit Kat Club and contributed to the Tatler, started by his friend Richard Steele in 1709. In 1711, he and Steele founded the Spectator, 274 numbers of which were his own work. In 1716, he became a Lord Commissioner of Trade and married Charlotte, Countess of Warwick. In the Hanoverian cause, he issued a political newspaper, The Freeholder, which cost him many of his old friends, and he was satirized as Atticus by Alexander Pope. In 1717, he was appointed Secretary of State under Sunderland, but resigned his post because of failing health. Thomas Addison, 1793 to 1860, physician, born in Long Benton, Northumberland, northeastern England. He studied medicine at Edinburgh, settled in London, and in 1837 became physician to Guy's Hospital. His chief researches were on pneumonia, tuberculosis, and especially on the disease of the supranatal capsules, now known as Addison's disease. Addison's disease, a medical condition resulting from the destruction of adrenal cortex by infection, commonly tuberculosis, or by an autoimmune infection. A fall in the output of corticosteroids causes the physical weakness, mental apathy, low blood pressure, and increased skin pigmentation. Without treatment, death is unavoidable. Taking synthetic steroids by mouth restores the patient to normal health, but must be continued for life. Addition reaction. A chemical reaction in which a product contains all atoms of two or more reactants. Example, the chlorination of ethylene. Similarly, addition polymerization is the formation of a polymer without the elimination from the reactants. For example, the formation of polyethylene. The product of an addition reaction is known as an adduct. Additives. Strictly, any chemical, even a vitamin, added to a food during its processing or preparation. More usually, chemicals which have been added in order to achieve a specific aim. They include preservatives, which reduce spoilage by bacteria, antioxidants, which prevent fats from becoming rancid, emulsifiers, which permit a stable mixture of oil and water, coloring matter, to vary color to specifications, sweeteners, and flavoring agents / enhancers, to achieve a given flavor. Many additives are naturally occurring compounds. Others are synthetic. Legislation exists in most countries to ensure that food additives are technologically desirable and at the same time safe. However, in recent years, many consumers have come to fear synthetic additives, leading to an increase in the use of natural additives. Adela, Princess Adela, 1062 to 1137, Princess of England, the youngest daughter of William the Conqueror. In 1080 she married Stephen, Count of Blois, and had 9 children, the third of whom came to be King Stephen of England. She had a flair for administration, and was cultured and pious. Adelaide, port capital of South Australia, on the Torrens River, where it meets St. Vincent Gulf. Founded in 1837, the first Australian municipality to be incorporated in 1840. Airfield, railway, 3 universities, oil refining, motor vehicles, electrical goods, shipping, shipbuilding, trade in wool, grain, fruit, wine, fine beaches to the west, including Maslin Beach, the first nude bathing beach in Australia, many parks, 2 cathedrals, major wine growing area to the south and to the north, Adelaide Festival Centre, South Australian Museum, large collection of Aboriginal art, Art Gallery of South Australia, Constitutional Museum, Ayers House, 1846, headquarters of the South Australian National Trust, Maritime Museum in Port Adelaide, Arts Festival held every 2 years. Okay, lots of dates. That was 1 page from my big encyclopedia. Now we're going to do 1 page from starting and running a small business for Canadians, somewhere in the middle. Where do they live? Perhaps the simplest and most widely used way to describe your customers is based on where they are, beginning with a simple geographic breakdown by these factors: country, region, province, city, neighborhood. But geography can also be led to more specialized groups. For example, you may find it useful to describe customers based on factors such as how close their nearest neighbors are, how hot or cool their summers are, proximity to the airport, and frequency of travel. You can divide customers into groups based on geography to separate them according to regional taste, which often is a significant factor in the distribution and delivery of a product or service. Ethnic foods, for example, tend to sell better in certain regions of Canada. Indian food Indian food is hottest in the Toronto area. Kosher products are most popular in central Canada, and Asian food is everywhere. Per capita, wine consumption is far higher in Montreal than it is in Edmonton. Speaking of regions, instead of trying to sell heavy coats throughout the country, you may want to concentrate sales efforts in regions that have cold winters, taking advantage of market differences based on weather patterns. By looking at the geographic characteristics of consumers as they relate to your product or service, you begin to create market segments that you can use. What are they like? A profile of your customers includes all the attributes that you may expect to find in a national census. Marketing gurus call these attributes demographic data, which include the following: age, gender, family size, education, occupation, income, ethnicity, nationality, religion. Okay, that was one page from that book. Now we're going to do one page from Everything I Need to Know I Learned from a Children's Book. Peter Neumeyer, Everything a 10-Year-Old Boy Wanted to Know. I still own and look at from time to time one of my favorite books from childhood, a classic of sorts, The Boy Scout Handbook, or Handbook for Boys, 1940, with ads for troop flags, patrol flags, white light L-craft knife, folding candle lantern, official pack basket, Mohawk Indian style, official signaler, Morse code machine, official chow kit with flashlight and fingerprint set. This book is an expanded version of the first edition of 1911, which had undergone consultation with 4,600 names, said to comprise everybody in America who was related to boys' work. It begins with chapters defining scouthood, a chapter titled The Good Turn and Knighthood, amplified by examples of those good turns such as let a dog out of a trap, watered chickens at store, or found and restored lady's pocketbook. It also covers cooking fowl, game, green sweet corn, Seneca Indian dinner, twist, baked on a stick, first aid, Indian sign language, tree and bird identification, stars and constellations, weather, insects, snakes, electricity, salesmanship, scholarship, in short, everything that a 10-year-old wanted to bury his nose in. Small wonder that in 2007, the New York Times bestseller list includes The Dangerous Book for Boys, skipping stones, tying knots, and other essential activities. More or less the Boy Scout Handbook Redux. Yet that idealistic and practical 1940 book spoke to me most directly when I was 11. It addressed what every boy wanted to know. Decades later, boys are still intrigued by the very same things. Boy Scout Handbook. Although Ernest Thompson Seton was adored by generations of readers for his novels and nature stories, his most important contribution to American culture came in 1910 when he pulled together the first edition of what became the Boy Scout Handbook. Created as a guide for the Boy Scout organization, for which Seton served as chief scout from 1910 to 1915, the official handbook for boys relied for much of its content on Lord Baden-Powell's Scouting for Boys and Seton's The Birch Bark Roll of the Woodcraft Indians. Revised many times, and with many other writers contributing, Handbook for Boys already had millions of copies in print by the 1940s. When Professor Peter Neumeyer discovered it, by that point this 680-page book contained enough activities to keep any boy in America occupied for years. Alrighty.